Hello and welcome to episode number 4 of the Tweedle Eat Tweedle Run podcast, where Steph and I document our Run Disney adventures at both Disney World and Disneyland parks. I'm Court, and this is Steph.
Hello, and as always, you can interact with us online at Tweedle Eat Tweedle Run on Instagram or email us at tweedleeattweedlerun@gmail.com. Plus, you can listen to us via Google Podcasts for a little bit longer until they kill it, which they're going to, Spotify, as well as watch us on YouTube, and we're even on Amazon Music.
Well done, Steph. Way to sign us up for all those things. So,
I tried.
Today's episode is going to be part 2 of our springtime surprise weekend adventure. If you haven't already listened, you want to check out episode 3. That's where we did part 1. And now the exciting conclusion. Dun, dun, dun.
Ooh.
I actually ran into one of our listeners, my coworker Diego, shout out Diego, today at the office.
Hey, Diego.
And he was like, "Did you do it? Did you finish the race?" And I said, "Well, you will just have to tune in when we drop our next episode and find out."
Well, that's right, because Diego is one of those special people that doesn't have Instagram. Because if you have Instagram and you've been following us long, then you do know the end of our story. But it's kind of fun to know how it all goes.
Yeah. So anyway, so as a slight recap, issue was Courtney injured herself 2.5 weeks before the race. Slight tear to the calf muscle. Steph, magical physio powers, did her very best to try and patch me back together and see if I could try and, I mean, the goal was really just to finish the race. I mean,
Yeah.
whether it was run, walking, just walking, basically my only goal was finish.
We had zero intentions of it happening quickly. That was never part of the goal. We just wanted it to happen. Maybe do some character stops along the way. And so we just have to see how it all went. So
Yes.
our Saturday morning, April 20th, started bright and early, 3:30 wake up. For those of you keeping score, this was my third 3:30 wake up in a row since getting down to Florida. Would I do it the way we did it this time? I don't know. It was a lot of early mornings. So yeah, we were up at 3:30 making ourselves look all cute in our costumes. So it was cute. I was dressed as Russell. Court was my 10K badge with a giant 10K on herself, and her costume was very, very unique. There were a lot of shout outs as we were running by, like people being like, "Hey, there is a 10K." I don't know if people got that she was a badge, but they appreciated the 10K.
A few
Um,
people shouted at me like 10K badge. So I think and I will say now, granted, we didn't see necessarily everyone on the race course, but I definitely didn't run into any other 10K badges. Many, many,
no.
many, many Russells.
Yes, many, many Russells. We will get to that though, because there is a funny story about the many, many Russells. There were also many, many Kevins. Kevin was another very popular costume. A couple of Carls and Ellies and all the typical like fun up stuff. A bunch of grape sodas, but by far Russell and Kevin were very high up on the list. But we were the out at the bus by 10 to 4, and we were in Corral C for this morning because Court was assigned Corral C. For the 10K, there was no proof of time. We just had to put an estimate of what we would finish in. And maybe I've learned and we'll do this differently moving forward for the next races, although it's too late for our next one because we already had to submit our proof of times. But like I kind of estimated our speed based on if we stopped for characters. And I
Yeah.
think next time I would just go by like our actual run speed because I think had I gone by our actual run speed, you would have ended up in Corral B. So
Yeah, so Steph's bib actually said corral B on hers, but something to
yeah.
notice, Steph was you're allowed to go down a corral. So we went and asked just in case they were willing to let me bump up a corral, which they were not. But they said, yeah, no, corral B can definitely go
I
in
could go
corral
down
C. Yeah,
for
so
sure.
Steph was able to join me. And the funny Russell story is well, we're in corral C and I was like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom before we get going because you have a lot of time when you get there, you're kind of waiting around. And so Steph's like, okay, I'll sort of try and move my way up to the front of Corral C. And I said, yeah, I'll come find you. Oh my goodness. It was like impossible. It was a Where's
So many
Waldo, only
Russells.
Where's Russell? Which one
And it
is
also
my
doesn't help
Russell?
that I'm a tiny Russell.
Oh yes,
I'm
you
I'm
were the tiniest of the Russells, so it's like
I'm
I couldn't
I'm a
even.
tiny little Asian Russell, which is very appropriate to Russell.
It's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
you were appropriately themed for
Yeah.
Russell, but yes.
I totally had that feeling too as I was like kind of snaking through the line and trying to stay as close to the barrier as I could so that I would be an easy target that at least if you headed towards the barrier you would find me. But I knew as soon as I looked over, I was like, oh, there's Court. I better make a scene, otherwise she's never gonna find me again. But
Yes.
eventually Court did find me and she was just like, so many Russells.
Yes.
So many Russells everywhere.
But I did find her, and so we were in Corral C, and you don't wait too long. So the race goes off at
No.
5, and we crossed. So we were probably towards the front of Corral C. I think were we the second wave of Corral C? I think so,
Probably
right?
about that. Like the
Yeah.
and I would say the difference between Corral B to Corral C, it seemed like Corral C, they were letting more people into each wave. Like it seemed like the corrals at B were smaller waves, but more of them versus
Yeah.
like because I almost thought we were going to end up in the third wave of Corral C, and that wasn't the case. So yes, we were in the second wave of Corral C, and we got off at 5:25-ish is the time that you have.
Yeah, and then Steph, so at this point, I think Steph realized she might also need to pee because I mean, we got to
Yes,
the
I
race,
did.
we got there around 4. So, it's been almost an hour and a half that we've sort of just been standing around waiting. And she goes, okay, well, you know what? When we pass a bathroom on the race course, I'll stop and go to the bathroom. And I said, okay, how about we do this? We'll run until we get to a bathroom. And then I said, you go to the bathroom and I'll walk, to try and conserve my calf muscle. I'll walk at that point, and then you just like come and catch up to me because Steph was going to be able to run the whole thing. And I think the first bathroom we saw, I want to say was at about mile 3. Is that about fair, Steph?
It was probably about mile 3. It was a line of porta potties along the highway because the 10K also, if you don't know the routes, because they don't usually post them till ahead, the primary route for the 10K, you actually run along the highway first before dipping into Epcot. So the first little bit was like a line of porta potties at 3 miles, and there was a huge lineup, and I was like, nope, nope, keep going. We can just keep going. And we had also just started to reach the point where we were able to snake away from the crowds because the difference of being in Corral B to Corral C is there are a lot of people who just start walking right away, which is fine. But when you're not really in the right corral, it's just very congested. And there were definitely sections where, especially like at the water exchanges and things like that, where it really, really narrowed and people were just walking. And the like RunDisney tries to emphasize, don't walk more than 2 across, pass on the left, stick to the right if you're walking. But some people can abide by it, and other people are just kind of like da, 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 and all over the place. So
Yeah. Yeah, we did find it really congested. And so then at mile 3, so it's a 6.2 mile race, I said to Steph, you know what? I'm just going to try and run the whole thing because at this
yeah,
point, we sort of we're running at a slightly
slower
slower
pace.
pace to try and, conserve and see if I could run more of it. And yeah, we ended up deciding to run the whole thing. We didn't really wait. We didn't stop for too many characters because at the beginning of the race, as Steph said, it was so congested. So the lineups for characters were super long. Like, I mean, it looked like you were probably waiting 30 minutes for some of those characters by the time we were getting to them. And it's not our main focus of the race. I know for some people that's what they really like doing is meeting all the unique characters. We like seeing them, and we'll stop for ones if they don't have much of a wait. But yeah, no, we were happy to just kind of continue on. We did see a very famous character on the race though, Steph, which we were both very excited about.
We did. As we were getting through Epcot, and if you're wondering about my whole pee story, somehow like I managed as badly
Yeah.
as I needed to pee at the start of this race. I did not stop the entire time, and by the time I was done, it wasn't like I was busting. So, really, I think my body was just absorbing it all by that point because I was probably dehydrated and it was fine. But anyways, we were probably, I want to say, 8 kilometers into the race when this happened, probably almost 9, when we were just getting through Epcot. And who did Court see? But Jogging Jack Sparrow. Look him up on Instagram, folks.
Yay.
He's super fun. Just to kind of give it a preview. So, Jogging Jack Sparrow is this guy who dresses up as Jack Sparrow, probably better than the actual Jack Sparrow at Disney, and runs every Disney race that he runs as Jack Sparrow. So he was there to run the whole weekend and he ran the 5, the 10, and the 10 miler. So we caught up to him, got a sweet selfie with him, and then
Yeah.
carried on along our way.
Yeah,
That's funny because
that was my
I
favorite. My favorite character spotting was someone who's not even part
an
of.
actual character stop.
Yeah, yeah. But he was great. He was so willing to take pictures, and we
Yeah,
saw him take pictures with tons of other people. And
for
yeah,
sure.
it's just a fun sighting to see when you're at the Run Disney events.
Yeah, and I think him and to take a picture outside of Guardians were the only stops you and I made. I
Yeah,
don't
I
think we
think you're
stopped
right.
any other time. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then we tried really hard to pose in front of the PhotoPass people of me chasing you and then you chasing me, and we got some good pictures out of that. So that was pretty good.
yeah, I like those photos. Me as the
Yeah.
badge that Steph was trying to catch, and so we have a few of those that we were able to get. But so we crossed the line. I think we were just about an hour, right? Was our clocked time?
We clocked in just under an hour.
Yeah. And so we got in line. So we ended up being able to get ahead of a bunch of people because we did run the whole thing and didn't stop really at all. And so, but at the end, they also have characters you can meet with. So at the end, once we had our medals and everything, we got in line to see Russell and Doug. This was at 6:35 in the morning, and it was only a 20-minute wait. The line was really long. Like I think you
Yeah.
said it was longer than the lines you waited in the 5K after the 5K race, but it moved quickly. And same thing as your luck where they didn't take a break before we met with them, and so I think
Yeah.
that's why it was just the 20 minutes.
Yeah, and so the whole line moved. I managed to trade a bracelet while I was in line. There was a mom with a son again that I passed a bracelet to, and then there was somebody who came with bracelets. So I guess the mom and the son like got her attention. It was like, oh, there's someone here trading bracelets. So I got a different bracelet out of that. So it wasn't me just giving away bracelets. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But we got our picture taken, and it's a great picture of us with Russell and Doug. And then we hopped on the bus and we were back to the hotel by 7:15. So not too bad, all in
No,
all.
and we had booked a 7:30 a.m. breakfast at the Ale and Compass. So this is the restaurant at the yacht club, but yacht and beach club are attached. So you just kind of walk through the buildings to get there. So we went back to the room, showered, got ready for the parks because this was our big 10K plus 4 parks in one day adventure. So we got our tank tops that Steph made for us and headed over to Ale and Compass breakfast, which I think, in my opinion, is the best value breakfast that I've had on Disney property.
Oh yeah, definitely in a hotel. For sure. Um, like I don't think you could get a cheaper deal. So for $23, we got their buffet, which was like a lot of fruit and yogurt, pastries, pretty good croissants and cinnamon buns, I would say, plus a drink. So whether that was like juice, coffee, tea, and then one of their entrees. Um, and then we also got our annual pass discount on top of that. So
It's
it
a
was
great
a, it was a
deal.
pretty, yeah, it was a very good way to start the day, which is kind of crazy when you're saying a $23 breakfast is a great deal. That's Disney.
That's Disney for you. And shout out to Kenny, who was our server. He was fantastic and, chatting with us about our Run Disney event and,
Yep.
asking where we were headed next. And so he was super friendly and nice to chat with. So anyway, so we had our breakfast there. Delicious as always. And then we were to the bus stop at 8:33 a.m. The next bus wasn't until 8:50 based on there's a board posted that tells you what time the next buses are coming. And we that morning had joined the queue. So while after we got our pictures with Russell and Doug, before we got on the bus to head back to the resort, we joined the virtual queue for Tron, and we got a really low boarding group, but we were nervous because we knew, or actually maybe even at this point it had already been called, I think, right? So we knew we had to be back, or we had to join the line by like kind of like
by a certain
9:30, I
time,
think.
like yeah, and we know from experience that there's sometimes like, well, there is a 15-minute buffer, but we're like, okay, we have to make it there plus make it through the parks. So we called a Lyft and
Yeah.
paid $11 for the Lyft between the two of us, which was still cheaper than paying for the individual lightning lane for Tron. So
This was the theory. We thought if we miss our virtual queue, they sometimes will let you still join it. It's kind of at the cast member's discretion. So, but we figured, well, if we miss it, and I had heard that Tron being a newer ride, they were a little less lenient of people being late for their virtual queue return times. So we said, forget it. We'll just get a lift because like as much as it's saying the bus is coming at this time, if it's later than that, then that might be even more frustrating. So, anyways, we got a lift, as Steph said, $11. So I was happy to spend that. It picked us up at 8:40, so it was super quick to get to the resort. And then we got on the monorail to Magic Kingdom just before 9. And there was no line when we got to the tap styles because the park had been open since 8. We power walked all our
we did power
all the
walk
way
to Tron.
all the way back to Toronto after doing our 10K race that morning. So of
Yeah.
course, who doesn't want to then power walk to a ride? And we got in line for our virtual queue at 9:12. And we were on the ride at 9:30. So I think partially because we were sort of towards the end of our virtual queue time, it seemed like when we joined the line, we basically walked through the whole lineup. And then we got stopped at the end right before they kind of let you into where the lockers are. And then I turned and went, oh my goodness. And the line behind us was just really growing because they must have called the
The
next group
next,
at that point.
yeah.
So I think the timing worked out great for us. So we were less than 20 minutes that we waited to get on that ride. And it's always a fun ride. But as part of our goal, so Steph, outline what our goal was for the 4 parks. What were our set
So
rules?
our set rules to complete the 4 parks in 1 day challenge was and 10K was we ran our 10K, check.
Done.
And then for every park that we went to, we had to take a picture in front of something important of the park. So in Magic Kingdom, it's like the castle, which we did. Take a pitch, ride a ride, and have proof of riding that ride,
Or an
and
attraction.
then
We were
or an
allowing an
attraction.
attraction. Yeah.
Yeah, a ride or an attraction, as well as eat a snack or drink a drink. We kind of left it open to that. So, what we did at Magic Kingdom, we did Tron, and we took some fun photos with the photo pass outside of Tron, just for proof of riding Tron. And since we have photo pass, we figured we might as well use photo pass.
Might as well.
And then yeah, and then we took a picture in front of the castle. And then this is where we struggled a little bit to find what snack we wanted to do because it was very early in the morning. And it's Magic Kingdom, which Magic Kingdom isn't necessarily known for like the greatest like snacks for any time of day. They're mostly like the fun desserty type stuff. So what we ended up doing, we're like, well, we do love Dole Whip here, and Dole Whip you could really kind of have at any time of day. So we went over to Adventureland to try to get Dole Whip from just outside of Tiki Room, but that place was not open. So we ended up mobile ordering from the Sunshine Tree Terrace, which was just like around the corner. When really, by the time it was ready for us, we could have went to the original place by the Tiki Room for the Dole Whip.
Yeah. Yeah. It turned out Aloha Isle, which is by the Tiki Room, didn't open till 10. And so while we were sitting there, I said, well, I can mobile order from Sunshine Tree Terrace. And as we were sitting there, I put in the mobile order, and then we see they open Aloha Isle like 10 minutes early. And I went,
Yeah,
well, I guess we could have gone here. And then we went over to get our Dole Whip at Sunshine Tree Terrace. And it would have been probably faster to just order and pick it up from the window because there was no lineup. And I felt like I stood there for a long time
just
waiting for it to say
waiting.
that my order was ready for pickup. Anyway, so but
Yeah,
that's fine. So we got it. We got a strawberry Dole Whip, which I don't know if I've ever had strawberry Dole Whip, but I enjoyed it. It was good.
it was good. Yeah, I would get it again. So we had our Dole Whip, and then from there we were done with Magic Kingdom.
Check. First
Check,
park off the list.
done. So at 10:13 in the morning, we hopped on the bus to Animal Kingdom. And we waited less than 5 minutes for the bus. Like we basically like power walked out of Magic Kingdom, went over to the bus, It was like right there. And then we rode the bus and scanned into Animal Kingdom by 10:35. So 20 minutes and we were there.
Very, very efficient.
Yep. We had a nice photo session in front of the Tree of Life, which was a good one. Like there were two photopaths photographers set up there, and the whole time we're standing there, we're like, the one on the left, we want the one on the left, because she was taking more interesting photos of everybody and seemed to be more intrigued about the stories of why people were taking pictures. So we got good pictures there. And then from there, we headed over to It's Tough to Be a Bug, which Court was interested in doing. And why don't you share your feelings about this?
So I'm convinced, and I said this to Steph, that I think we sat in a row where the stuff didn't happen to the seats that we were sitting in. Because I had heard reports that there's times when you get stung by wasps and it kind of feels like something stings you in your chair. Or at one point there was some rumbling because the insects were all leaving the theater, and people in rows ahead of us started exclaiming like maybe they'd been bumped by their seat.
There were a
Our
lot of
seat,
shrieking.
yeah, our seat didn't move at all. So I mean, I think we had maybe uh a nicer experience in that we weren't stung by insects or whatever, but it was it was
Eh,
okay. But like, I mean, the coolest part I thought was there was some spiders that come down from the ceiling, which was a cool effect, but also, oh my God, it would be terrifying for children. Like we were
yeah,
sitting there saying like Steph's daughter Sloane would be like screaming and
gone.
running out of the theater, just
Yeah.
done.
She'd be like, nope, I'm done. I'm out. I don't care. We're done. So,
So it
but
was it was a
otherwise,
it was a one and done for me.
yeah,
Yeah.
because otherwise, for sure, some of the other effects, considering the Disney magic that is possible, seemed pretty poor. So the fact that it had a 5 minute posted wait time and we waited 5 minutes was not surprising.
No, yeah, the animatronics, had not been kept up very well. So, the mouth wasn't moving very well with the audio, and so it just takes away from it a bit because you see other shows or other attractions where they are putting in the maintenance and the upkeep. So anyways,
Yeah.
one and done for us. And then from there, our plan was to join the walk up list for Nomad Lounge. So if you've listened to part one and we told you about our multiple lounge fails, get ready because here comes another one. So Nomad Lounge opens at 11. So at 11:16, we walked over to Nomad Lounge and we're just around the corner from it. So, it was like 5 minutes from It's Tough to Be a Bug. And we go up to it, and I was trying to join the walk up list in the app, and it said it wasn't available in the app. So I said, well, let's just go up to the podium and maybe we can put our name on the list. So we walk up to the podium, or Steph does, and
Yeah.
we are told that maybe in 20 minutes, they could add us to the list. They can't add us right now. And if they add us in 20 minutes, it will probably be a 75 to 90-minute wait. But they can't add us now. We need to come back in
Correct.
maybe 20 minutes. And maybe they can add us to the list. And we went, yeah, no,
No,
we
no,
don't
not
want
gonna
to wait
happen.
around 20 minutes to then wait around an hour and a half to go. So this
Yeah.
was, I think, lounge fail number 3 for us on the
By
trip.
this point. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it was disappointing.
But at least
But
we've eaten there before, so that's okay.
we have eaten there before. And I will say, so I said to Steph, well, you know what? We're not that far from Land of Avatar. What is it called? Pandora. Come on, brain.
Yes, Land of Avatar.
Land of Avatar. So I was like, you know what? Let's go to Satuli Canteen, because we went to Satuli Canteen once before and got the cheeseburger pods, and they were kind of meh for both of us. But I've
Yeah.
always heard good things about the bowl. So I was like, why don't we go and get a bowl? And so we walked over there and we actually stopped into Pongu Pongu because they have drinks. And
They do?
if you listen to the first episode, you know that Steph is a fan of getting the drinks while we're at Disney. So we
As you
ordered,
know, they're delicious.
I know, so good. So we ordered the rum blossom, which was really good. It kind of had like almost like an appley pear kind of flavor to it. It was slushy. It had some boba
Yeah,
balls in it.
definitely the kind of drink too that you could get a 16-year-old real wasted on really quickly because you couldn't tell there was alcohol in it. And there was a good chunk of alcohol in it.
Yeah, no, it was quite good. So yeah, we
Yeah,
rated that an 8 out of 10. So we got that. We walked into Stooley Canteen. We had mobile ordered while we were heading over there, and we picked up our mobile order super easy, And I always it always makes me laugh because you see the lineup of people, and it wasn't super busy at this point because again, it's only like 11:20 in the morning and we're stopping for lunch. But yeah, there's always a lineup, and then you walk up to mobile order and it's just your food's right
there's no
there and
line.
ready to go. And so we ended up getting the steak bowl with the sweet potato hash, and I really liked it. I was
Yeah, it
surprised
was
just
very
how
good.
good it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a good size. Like it was a good amount for the two of us to split, considering our whole food fare for the day and what the plan was. So that was great. And we rated it an 8.5 out of 10. So that's pretty high on our scale.
And then I will say that is a big fat check for park number 2, and it
Check.
is just around noon at this point. So we are feeling good about ourselves. We're like, we are killing this. We are destroying this. And we're also thinking to ourselves, I bet we haven't walked that many steps really either.
Wrong. So wrong.
So at noon, so just after 12, we headed to get a bus to Hollywood Studios because that was going to be our third park, and we scanned in to Hollywood Studios just before 12:30. So again, good bus luck, didn't wait too
Yeah.
long. I found when we were park hopping on the buses, it was never, a long wait for the buses, and I found the buses were never that packed either. So it
No,
was nice.
especially in the middle of the day. Like it wasn't crazy at all. So we did our first attraction, which was Beauty and the Beast, something that
The
neither of us had done before. It was the Beauty and the Beast
live
show.
live stage show.
Yeah, which the posters for didn't really give it promising appearances because as much as, it was humans acting stuff out for like Chip and Mrs. Potts and Cogsworth and Lumiere, they were like weird life-size people in costumes. So that part was kind of weird. But otherwise, like everything else, like the effects altogether, it was actually quite good. And we were saying, like, if you know from part one of this episode, when we chatted about how terrible Anna and Elsa's costumes were in Frozen, Belle's costume and like even the Beast before he turned into the Beast and Gaston's costume were much better and like much more realistic, and it seemed like much more effort was put into it. But unfortunately, we don't really know how the whole thing wrapped up because probably about three-quarters of the way through, just before Gaston was coming in to break down the door of the castle to kill the Beast, we don't know what happened, but the whole show just ended and they said it was done. There was some
Yep.
sort of emergency to this time. Yeah, we don't know what happened.
Nope, just abruptly. It was weird because so they're all like gonna storm the castle, and there's fog and everything, and then all of a sudden they all kind of leave the stage, and Steph and I are like, well,
Not,
that was abrupt, and the music just kind of stopped. And
but
we're
it,
like, that
it wasn't
seemed
even like,
weird.
but it was something like they left the stage in like a weird way. Like they
Yeah,
kind of like swooped off the stage like it was supposed to happen,
yeah,
and then nothing happened. And you're just like, oh, okay. So I
yeah.
guess that's it.
And then they announced, yeah, the show is over. Get out. So we're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, sort of saw Beauty and the Beast, but yeah, I will say the Belle, the lady who played Belle was fantastic.
She was really good. And because I'm pretty sure her vocals were live, like 100% live
Hers
when
were
she sang.
definitely live. Yeah. The villagers parts I think were recordings. But even the dancing and all that stuff. Anyways, we were
Yeah,
really impressed. And yeah, I had low expectations, and I definitely
so did I.
yeah, definitely surpassed my expectations. So,
Yep.
so then right outside of that Tower of Terror, we decided, hey, let's get some photo pass pictures here in front of the iconic Tower of Terror. And this was by far the best photo pass photographer we had the entire trip. Like, just went above and beyond. And it was funny because there was only one family ahead of us taking pictures. So I thought, okay, well, it'd be super quick. And they spent so much time with this family and like individual pictures with each kid and with the parents and all this. And I
And like
thought,
the cutest poses for each
oh,
of the kids too.
so
It was
cute.
so good.
And I thought, maybe it's because they're kids and whatever, and they'll just do the sort of standard package of 3 or 4 poses for us. Nope,
Nope.
like so many poses. Okay, now do this. Okay, now do this. Okay, let's set you up this way. Okay, now put out your hand, and there's gonna be something fun
Yeah,
when.
you're gonna like drape your medal over here. You guys okay hugging each other? Like all this stuff, like so good. And the pictures turned out really well. Like we
Yeah.
got some really good shots out of that. So that was fun.
Yeah, and then Steph's bucket list item from here, we
That's
walked
right.
over to Galaxy's Edge because we had our Oga's reservation. So our reservation was at 2:05. So on the way there, I was a little peckish, so stopped at the Outpost popcorn mix, or sorry, stopped at the in Galaxy's Edge to get the Outpost popcorn mix, and it was kind of like sweet, but like also salty and like a slightly spice kind of
Yeah,
flavor
they
to it.
advertised it like blueberries with lime and like a spicy thing to it. It was
Yeah.
interesting.
It was interesting. I didn't mind it. I kind of liked it. I found the more I ate, the more I kind of enjoyed it. The cast member told me people compare it to Fruity Pebble flavored popcorn. So I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I can see that.
kind
Yeah.
of see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to Oga's at 1:50 to check in. We got the message a couple minutes later that, our table was ready. And this is very exciting for anyone who's been to Oga's, but we actually got to sit down. It was very
Yes.
exciting.
We got to sit in a booth and the people in our booth were like friendly and chatty enough, so that was kind of nice. We got we got drinks. They were
Obviously.
delicious. I came home with a souvenir tiki mug as I tend to in these sort of situations, but it has adorable little Ewoks fighting on Endor and just
It was so cute. And we had seen somebody at our table had one, and
yeah,
Steph loves tiki culture and
I
loves
do.
Star Wars. And it was a tiki Star Wars mug with adorable Ewoks on it. And she's like, I think I have to. And I said, I think you have to too.
Well, and into the grand scheme of what I have paid in my history for a tiki mug, I think I did okay. It was $48, which yes, $48 US, but I have paid twice as much for a tiki mug that didn't have alcohol in it. So I was very happy to pay that and get to keep the glass.
I was gonna
So
say, yeah, that's true, because that included your drink. And the drinks at Oga's are definitely a little bit more expensive.
yeah,
I got an outer rim, and Steph was laughing at me because so it's sort of margarita-esque, it has like the salt on the rim, but it has this like mango puree
puree.
kind of on the top of it. It was so hard to, I'm like, do I drink it? Do I lick it? I'm like, I felt like I needed a spoon. It
So
was a
she was
good.
doing both. I got some very classy pictures of Court trying to like lick the top of this like puree mango thing and not make a scene. And I'm like, no, no, not gonna happen.
No,
It's a good one.
I was failing. I was failing at not making a scene, but it was good. It wasn't my favorite drink that I think I've gotten at Oga's, but it was good. And so that was check it off. That's park number 3 finished.
Beep. And it was barely what, 2 o'clock?
Well, I think it was 3 by the time we ended up leaving, but yeah, we got into
Yeah.
Oga's just before 2. So yeah, so we left at 3. And the reason that we wanted to do the parks in this order was, one, because we knew we could take a bit of a break because we figured we might need it. And then also we wanted to do Epcot at the end so we could catch the fireworks show, because neither of us had seen the new show Luminous. So no, Harmonious. Harmonious?
I
It's
think
called
that's right.
Harmonious now. Sorry. I think it used to be called Luminous. Anyways, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
We wanted to see it. It left such a great impression.
It was cool. Don't get me
It
wrong,
was.
it was cool.
Okay,
Knowing the name is not important, but
let's not get ahead of ourselves. So around 3 o'clock, we took the Skyliner back to the beach club, and we just lounged. I think I might have napped this day. I think I actually did fall asleep.
I think you tried to.
I think I slept this day. I
I
think we went to the pool, and then I think I did
Yeah,
sleep.
you did sleep and you went back to the room to sleep. I like hung out by the pool and dozed a little bit poolside and then
Hmm.
went back to the room. And by the time I went back to the room, um, we were pretty much ready to go to get on to the rest of the park.
Yeah, and
hopping.
this is really the advantage of staying in this kind of Epcot area, the area hotels, is that it's so quick to get back to the park. So 5:15, we headed back to the park. Steph forgot her medal. We
Had to go
were
back
we had to go back because we were taking our pictures in front of the iconic things with our medal.
with our
Um,
medals.
yeah, so we went to the park. We went to the front of the park to do the photo pass with the Epcot ball. So we got all of those pictures, and then we had booked an individual lightning lane for Guardians. Um, we got there at uh, we got there at 5:50 for our individual lightning lane, and we were done and off by 6:20. So there was a bit of a wait, but like nothing crazy to get on the ride. And this time we got Everybody Wants to Rule the World. And it was the worst song I think that I had for the trip.
I mean, I've had them all, and it not that it's a bad song, just for the
No.
ride, it's a different vibe. Like it's a lot of a slower pace song for how the ride feels, and it doesn't like pump you up in the same sort of capacity. That's
Yeah,
all I can really say. Like it's just different.
it's definitely slower. We got some photo pass in front of the Xandar ship because Steph had skipped doing that during the race and was kind of worried, like, what if I don't do it during? So I was like, you know what? There was no line. Let's just do
So
it
we just did
now.
it.
Yeah.
Got
And
some
then
good
we,
pictures.
yeah, yeah. And then we walked over to Spice Road Table. We weren't able to mobile check in. I don't know why, it just wouldn't let us, but we walked up and we're checked in.
Yeah,
We had a reservation for this restaurant.
yep. And I think we were seated almost immediately at 6:35.
Mhm.
It was probably on this trip my favorite meal. Like it was different, and um, we got the deep fried cauliflowers that were kind of seasoned in sort of like a Middle Eastern type spice, and they were delicious. We gave it a 10 out
So
of 10.
good. Only
Yeah,
thing we
very
rated
few
10 out of 10 this
things.
trip
Yeah,
was the fried cauliflower at
deep
Spice
fried
Road Table.
cauliflower.
Oh my God. I like want to get that every single trip that I go now. It was so
Yeah, no,
good.
it was so good. And then we got like their combination plate that had a bunch of different little nibbles that were all very delicious, like including some lamb kofta meatballs and their version of chicken shawarma. But it was all delicious, like
And you got a drink,
well
I
worth
think,
it.
too,
I
Steph, that
did.
you really liked.
I got their Moroccan mule, so it was like a Moscow mule, but kind of spiced a little bit differently. And then you got the mint iced tea, which
Yeah, it was interesting. I said to Steph, I said it kind of tastes like, you know, those spearmint candies that like your grandparents would have. I said it kind of tastes like that because it was mint. Right, like it was definitely like a spearmint mint flavor, but it was slightly sweetened. Anyways, it wasn't my favorite, but it was different. And anyways, I kind of liked trying it, and it was refreshing enough, and it
yeah,
was very hot again this day. So
it was
yeah,
very hot, and Epcot felt a lot busier than it had been. Because we also realized that the plain white teas were also playing.
yeah.
So it was probably a little bit busier because there was actually like, an actual band playing at Epcot, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, and really, but all the parks, I think we felt like this day because we did every single park. I wouldn't have said there was any parks that we walked into and felt like, oh, this one doesn't seem busy, but these
No,
other ones do. They all just seem generally busier than the first 2 days that we were at the park. So, you know, it's a Saturday, so weekend
to be expected.
crowds. Yeah. I mean, it was nothing terrible, but
No,
definitely could feel more crowded. So then around 8 o'clock, we got ourselves a spot for the fireworks. Steph wandered over and got herself the sake flight
sure
from
did.
Japan.
It was delicious. I had three lovely different sakes from Japan. I can't even remember what they were all called because I was just like, I would like the sake flight, please. And they're like, okay, here you go.
Here you go. Yeah.
Uh,
And we ended up getting a spot. So there's a bridge between France and the UK, and that's where the International Gateway is. So we were going to go out that way to get back to the beach club. So I thought, why don't we set up somewhere in this area so that it's kind of a quick jaunt to get home? And we there's a spot like you can go down a set of stairs and there's like kind of like a lower level. And so we went down there and there was like no one down there. It wasn't crowded
No,
at all. We were able to sit on a wall where there's kind of some planters in behind you. So it was really nice to be able to sit. Only downfall was there were definitely a few little bugs that were maybe not biting or maybe biting. I don't know, but they were just kind of
we
like
don't know. They
being
were around our
pests.
necks and shoulders,
Yeah.
and we were kind of like, I feel like something's crawling on me, but I don't
Yeah.
really know what's happening. But
Yeah. But other than that, it was a great spot to watch it. And I enjoyed the show. I think we had a really good spot to watch it. I think a lot of the
we did.
fireworks, a lot of the different fireworks and water projection effects that they had were really, really cool. The music, it didn't hit me the way that Happily Ever After does, for sure. And I think I've heard other people say that. I didn't necessarily get all the feels, but I thought the effects of the show itself were
Yeah.
very cool and worth seeing.
And I would agree with that. Like it was kind of neat to see the water timed with the fireworks together. But the songs that they picked were a lot of like the lesser known songs and not necessarily like in the same sort of way that when you watch Happily Ever After kind of puts it all together to get the whole Disney experience.
Yeah. I liked the
So,
different languages that they had. I mean, I think that was
mhm.
very keeping with the theme of Epcot, of all the countries. And so I liked that part. It was still the songs that you knew, but sung in different languages. So I thought
Yep.
that part was neat. But yeah, overall, like I'm glad that we saw it. I wouldn't say it was a must do for me, but if it worked out, I would see it again.
Yeah, I agree. So then we walked back to the beach club, which was super easy since we were right there, and we were back in the room by 9:30. So not terrible.
Mhm.
And then at this point, Court decided she wanted some dessert. And where we were at Beach Club, there was a little walk-up stand for ice cream just by the pool called Beaches and Cream. So we were in line at Beaches and Cream by 9:42 for Court to get some non-dairy ice cream. And you got the ice cream Sammy, right?
Yeah, so someone ahead of me got an ice cream sandwich. That's what they ordered, and I thought, "Ooh, that sounds really good." So because I've had the non-dairy ice cream they have at the beach club before, it's okay. It's not the best, but I thought, "Ooh, if it's sandwiched between two delicious cookies,
Cookies.
that's what I want." So that's what I ended up ordering. It was two chocolate chip cookies, and I got the vanilla non-dairy Tutti Frutti is the brand of non-dairy ice cream they have, and there was about 20 people, I'd say, in line. Like it seemed like reasonably busy. And yeah, it definitely took like a solid 25 minutes to get my ice cream. So it was not a super short wait, but it was delicious. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. So was very happy that we went and did that. So Steph got her sake flight dessert. I got my non-dairy
That's
ice
right.
cream sandwich dessert.
Yeah, because Cora was like, "Are you gonna get anything?" I'm like, "No, I had sake for dessert." And she's like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Yeah.
okay."
I was like, oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
And we forgot to mention it, but check, Steph, we
that's
checked off
right.
that. That was our fourth park, and so we did it. And roughly what was our step count that day?
Yes. So that day was probably about 45,000 steps for me
Yeah.
and probably like 36,000 steps for Court. That's the difference of teeny tiny Groku legs versus giant Groot legs. I think that's what we decided to compare ourselves to Groot and Groku
Yes.
at this point.
Yes. I have the long Groot legs. And
And
it's
I
so
have,
funny because we went everywhere together this day. There really
yeah,
wasn't very much, if any time that we weren't together because we ran the races and we did all the parks. And every time I compare, and I'm like, what are you at now, Steph? And I'm like, how are you already like 4,000 steps ahead of me? Because she's
because of
taking teeny
all the
tiny little
teeny
steps.
tiny little steps I have to take. As we've talked about before in other episodes about the difference between her cadence and my cadence, and that's just our natural running rhythm.
Yes,
So
and whenever
yes.
I make Steph power walk, I definitely am taking very long strides to Steph's teeny tiny little strides that she can
Not gonna
take.
lie, there are so many times when I'm power walking with you where I feel like I'd be much more efficient to just start jogging.
Yeah, probably. I really like walking fast and I am a very fast walker. We'd even discussed this, like maybe I should have at some point taken up like professional power walking.
For sure. 100%. So yes, that was day two. Full day 2? Day 3? Yes, day 3.
Yeah, day 3. Oh my God. I
Yeah,
was
day
like,
3.
I've lost track. But yes, so that
Well,
was a really
race
successful
2,
day.
day 3. Yeah.
Race 2, day 3.
So race 2, day 3. So then now we get to the last full day of insanity, the 10K race. For
10
some
mile.
reason, oh, yeah, sorry, that's right, 10-mile race. And for some reason, my body decided to get me up earlier than the alarm that I set off. And so I was up at 3 a.m. and like, well, I guess I'm going to get up and get ready to go. So I got up at 3, got my little costume on. By 3:30, I got to the bus, which left right away. I should mention that I had time to grab again a quick coffee in the morning since the beach club had a nice little coffee station set up for me, so I could grab like a nice little coffee to ride on the bus with. They stopped at the boardwalk, and then we arrived just before 4 to Epcot. This time I got smart, and right as soon as I got there, I went to the bathroom right away, so I wouldn't be haunted with the feeling of needing to go to the bathroom and then basically just running it away.
She is
And I
learning,
was in
people. She
I
is
am
learning.
learning. I'm preparing for, the multiple times that I am planning to do this. So then I was back in my Corral B, and I learned as well when snaking through the corral, if you're not in a huge group and you want to get off near the front of the corral, instead of snaking to the right, actually snake to the left. Because on the first run, when I did it, I snaked to the left and it was easier to get to the front of the corral than versus when I went to the right. I got kind of stuck up against the barrier. And I don't know if it's because it's closer to the stage and you get by the stage. And like Jeff Galloway was there. And if anybody is following RunDisney, Jeff Galloway is an ex-American Olympian for long distance running who's developed this whole long distance running program for the RunDisney races. And a lot of people, when you read the stuff online, kind of use his information as gospel for how they learn how to do these races. So he was there. I could have snagged a picture with him, but I wasn't quick enough. And then kind of snaked away along. But I got in probably fourth or fifth wave to the start, and I crossed the start line about 5:15, and away I went. So I had a great time on this race. Like I kind of had this goal for myself to do it under 90 minutes, just so that I could use it as a proof of time for when I do the marathon weekends to get myself into a higher corral, or at least guarantee that I would be in B. I just learned after the 10K experience, I didn't want to end up in C and I wanted to at least be in B. So then I got online and I started running, and I felt good, and I just was having fun right from the get-go. I definitely passed a lot of characters at the beginning because the lineups were just way too long, or I even got up to one character stop and there wasn't even anybody there. Like it was like nobody had set up, and I was like, really? Like it just started. How is there nobody here already? At one point, I stopped for what I thought was like a Darth Vader stop, but there's no PhotoPass person there. So they're like, oh, it's a good place for a selfie. I'm like, nope, no one's got time for that. Keep going. So then as I kept running, I eventually stopped when I would get to somebody that either had no line or like maybe one or two people. So I took a picture with Tigger. I got a picture with Monterey Jack from the Rescue Rangers. If anybody is familiar, I said Monterey Jack to Court, and she looked at me like I was crazy. But I don't know. My brother and I watched a ton of it when we were kids, so I was pretty pumped to get a picture with Monterey Jack. Um, I also got a picture with Tinkerbell, which was kind of funny because she wasn't on the 5K race anywhere, but she was on the 10-mile race. So I got a picture with Tinkerbell. I got
So weird.
yeah, I got a picture with lots of love in Toy Story because I was like trying to decide, like, I should take a picture in Toy Story because there's not a lot going on in here. But I got a picture there. And then, kind of towards the end of the race, as I was running by, there was Captain Balbosa and the Disney Jack Sparrow. And I opted not to take pictures with them because the Jack Sparrow that Disney brought in did not look like Jogging Jack. So I was like, I've got that picture, so I can just carry it through. But it was fun, and I crossed the line at 6:41, and so they hand you your medal when you finish that. And because this completed my challenge, I got to DV off to the special line to pick up my second challenge medal. So
She did
I got my
it. She
Stitch.
did
I
it.
did it. I completed it. I got my Stitch challenge medal. Now to backtrack a little bit to Captain Jack Sparrow, something that I didn't see happen on the race, but afterwards on social media, it was everywhere. So Jogging Jack also did this race. And there were many, many videos on Instagram of Jogging Jack meeting Captain Jack and Barbossa being like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" And then the two like Jacks yelling imposter at each other back and forth. So I thought that was pretty good. So I got to the end, finished the race, got in lines for characters because I wanted to make sure I got my picture with Lilo and Stitch. Waited less than 10 minutes. It was super, super fast. I kind of wanted to get a picture with Baymax because I'm like, oh, Baymax is right there, and you never see Baymax in the park. And there was no line. So in hindsight, had I known that Baymax was going to leave to go on a break, I would have done that first and just like ran up, got my picture, and then gone over to Lilo and Stitch. But I didn't know, and I didn't think it would take that long. So then I go and I get my picture, and then I go to Baymax, and they're like, "Oh, Baymax will be back at like 7:30." I'm like, "No,
No,
that
not worth it.
no, that's not gonna work." Also, I should note, I was like waiting in line just before 7 o'clock, right when you would virtual queue for stuff. And I was chit-chatting with a girl in line in front of me. And the whole time she's like going on about like she's getting in line for her virtual queue for Tron. And I don't know if it was just the adrenaline keeping me going to this point, but as soon as I finished that 10-mile race, my brain shut off. And I
Yeah.
was like, what am I supposed to do? I feel like I'm supposed to do something. So I'm texting Court, what am I supposed to do? Try for a virtual queue. Virtual queue? What virtual queue? Guardians,
For
you
what?
dumb dumb.
For what?
What?
And
What ride? I don't know. My favorite ride? Oh, right. Okay. And I'm trying. And meanwhile, Court got it right away anyway, so it didn't matter. Um, so then I was first on the bus at 7:07, waited not very long. And then I was back at the room by 7:45. Court was
yeah,
still in bed
I was.
looking
Yeah,
at me. Yeah,
I was awake. I
he was.
booked. Listen, I did my job, which was
You
I
did.
booked the virtual queue for Guardians,
Yep.
and I got us an individual lightning lane for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
Yep.
And for anyone who is remembering our pre-trip report where we said we were going to go to Hollywood Studios this day, yeah, we changed all those plans
We did.
because we realized Steph really just wants to ride Guardians a bajillion times.
Yep.
And if you don't start at Epcot, or if you're not in the park at Epcot at 1 p.m. when they do the second drop of the virtual queue, like you basically can't join it. And
No.
we thought, okay, well, we'll just change. And so we decided, never mind, we'll go to Epcot that day. So I got a sporting group 27. So I took care of Dum Dum Steph because at this point
Yeah,
she was just running on fumes.
I was. I walked into the room and Court looked at me and she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, no, I'm really stupid right now." Like I just felt like I was in a haze and it was the craziest feeling. It was probably like lack of sleep and just the nonsense that we had been doing to ourselves. I should also mention that at this point, I was shockingly sore. Like surprisingly sore considering I run every day. So for me to run a 5K, 10K, 10 miler in a row is like not that big of a deal. What I didn't factor in were all the additional steps we were doing to do Disney. So like
Mhm.
that was definitely a lot, but we did it. It was done. Now we had to get ready to move on to the next part. So we got ready, checked in for our flights to go home, and we were ready to leave for the day by 8:26 and got in line for Epcot security to rope drop Epcot and get
And
ready
now
to go.
this morning, because the 10 miler race, which went through Hollywood Studios and Epcot didn't even open until 10.
Yeah.
So we're thinking, oh, we've made like great time because early entry would have started at 9:30. So, we left the room at 8:26. We're at 8:40. 8:40 is when security opened, tap styles open. So we're like going through security, we're getting into the park at 9:48. We were held on the bridge between France and the UK, right there. And our plan was to go and rope drop Remy. So we're like, we're in a great position. Super happy with it. We're probably maybe 30 people from the front of the rope drop line. They didn't let us into the queue for Remy's until 9:48. They held us for an hour. So they let us, they kind of kept moving us forward a little bit here and there. And it was really frustrating because early entry started at 9:30. And it was really annoyed, I guess, that it's like you only have so many large attractions that they weren't able to open it by 9:30, which is kind of a late opening time. I mean, it's not like they're opening the park at 7:30 in the morning. So I think everyone in the line was a little grumbly that, it was taking so long. And then when they did finally open it, we were on the ride at 9:53. So I mean, it was 5 minutes from the time when they
Yeah.
let us into the queue to when we were on the ride. So we were really close to the front. And so we were on the ride. It's a really cute ride. It's not one that I necessarily want to wait for, over an hour for, but I'm very happy to wait that 5 minutes. But if you add all the time that we waited, it really felt like a poor use of our early entry rope drop, considering how early we got to the rope drop, right? And how
For
far
sure.
ahead in the crowds we were.
Now, the other thing to factor into this, with how broken I felt by this point, we spent a lot of time just standing. Like,
Yeah.
and the standing was killing me slowly, and I didn't really understand how badly the standing was killing me until I sat down on on Ratatouille and was just like, oh, this is the most comfortable seat I have ever sat in. And the ride's not super long, but I was like, this is lovely. And then I had to get up again, and it was like, oh,
Yeah,
not not so
I think
good.
the other days, because we were either sort of like moving between the parks and going to attractions with low wait times, or the other days when we had purchased Genie Plus, and so we were just, walking through the
Moving.
queue just to get onto
Yeah.
the ride, and then we'd sit on the ride, and then you'd be moving. We didn't do a lot of standing around, whereas this
Nope.
day, this is the lines day, because we were like, you know what, we won't get Genie Plus because we've hit the main things we want to hit. Let's not bother paying for it because we didn't have a whole bunch of things we wanted to do. But that
No.
was a mistake.
Yes.
So
Because we learned that there was no need to be peasants and have to wait in line.
no, we
Because
should have just
we did
thrown more money at this problem. I mean, at this
we
point,
should have.
we're so deep in the hole for Disney. What's another, whatever, $30 for Genie Plus on a day? But
Exactly.
so my the thought was, okay, so we'll do Remy's, and then we were gonna go to Les Halles, which is they have like pastries, and it's right there in the France Pavilion. We walked in, so at 10:02 we walked into Les Halles, and the lineup is like out the door. It is
It was
it is
huge.
so long. And it wasn't like, at first I thought, well, maybe they just opened and that's why the line was so long.
Nope.
But no,
Nope.
like people were there with food, and it wasn't just like, oh, the lineup looks really long, but it's because there's a lot of gaps or something. No, it was like
It
solid
was long.
groups of people, and where they had sent their family members to sit down. So it was like one person was potentially, or anyways,
Yeah.
so we were there 5 minutes and we barely moved. I said, we're going to be in this line for an hour.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. So we abandoned that. We said, forget it. I was like, I can just get a donut at a Joffrey's cart
And
and I'll be so
Joffrey's.
happy. And that's what we did. We found a Joffrey's cart in America where there was literally no line. And
Yep.
I got a chocolate donut. It was all right, like 6 out of 10, but whatever. It was carbs and sugar and it was in my body. And Steph got a Kahlua-tini.
Correct. To go along with my espresso martini train of trying as many coffee boozy drinks as I could. It was okay. It was a 7.5. It did the trick. It was some caffeine, gave me a little bit of a jolt, made me
Yeah,
feel a little bit better.
this was your least favorite because I think you said
Yeah.
because it was just so creamy, like because Kahlua is like a cream liqueur and similar to
The
the one you got in
in
Animal Kingdom.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I would say it was a toss up between those two, which was worse. I think this was maybe only slightly better just because I was desperate at this time.
It's 10 a.m. Steph needs caffeine to keep functioning.
I
So
had been
then
awake for 7 hours at this point.
so 10:21. So the frozen standby wait in the app said it was 30 minutes. And so I thought, okay, well, why don't we jump in line? Now, this was a mistake. We all
Also,
recognize this was a
yes.
mistake.
And
But
we tried.
well, okay, so here's the thing.
Okay,
We did our due diligence. So in the app,
we
it says
did.
it's a 30-minute posted wait. And then I also have this other app that's like a Lines app that says like what they believe the true wait time will be, right? Because sometimes the wait times Disney has in their app are not really accurate. I go to that one and it also says like 28 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, they're both saying it's 30. This lineup is like out the door frozen and out and around the Norway Pavilion. Like I've never seen the line this long before, but we're like, okay, well, maybe it's just because, I don't know, there's a lot of room in the line, or maybe they're not sneaking it all the way through on the inside.
Maybe,
Who
well, that's the
knows?
thing. Maybe they've like blocked off some stuff. No idea.
We're not sure. So then we're like, okay, so while we're waiting, we're like, we'll wait in line because what else are we doing? We got time. So then it jumps to 45 minutes and we're like, okay. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to the bathroom. And on my way back from the bathroom, I stop and I see a cast member who clearly works in the Norway Pavilion. And I was like, hey, like, see this long line. How long do you really think this is going to take? Because at this point, it just says it's a 45-minute wait. And the lady's like, yep, nope, I think it'll be a 45 to 50-minute wait. I'm like, okay, this lady knows what she's talking about. Like,
Incorrect.
she works here, whatever. So we join the line at 10:21. 10:36, our virtual queue gets called for Guardians. And so we're like we've now been in the queue for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
We were like just about at like to actually get in the actual like lineup, right?
In
Of
the
where there's
building.
actual ropes. Yeah. And so we asked the cast member, we're like, okay, like hey, they've called our virtual queue. If we're in line for this ride and it takes longer, will they still honor it? And she's like, yep, no problem. Like if you're late, that's okay because you were in this line. Okay, fine. 10:45. So now it's, 25 minutes we've been in this lineup. It now says a 55 posted wait. And there's this group behind us that's saying like it's at least an hour more because they're like they've waited in the standby line. And what we alluded to or what we mentioned in our last podcast was that we don't see it in a lot of standby lines. Like we don't wait in a lot of standby lines. So like I don't have a good gauge. Whereas they were saying like from their experience, we weren't even at the point where it was going to then take still an hour.
So we had no idea.
We really didn't know. So at 11:02, we're really just inside the doors at this point. So that's like we're 40 minutes in, and the girls behind us are saying it's probably going to be another hour from the point that we're at. And we went, we're done.
Nope.
We are done. We are abandoning another line for the day. We are not cut out for standby.
And to be fair, I think a part of the motivation is that we both enjoy Frozen. We both think it's an adorable ride.
Yes.
But we had already ridden it this trip, and we know we will ride it again. So it wasn't heartbreaking. So out of the line we went.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we decided to make our way over to Guardians. But on our way over, we picked up our Finisher's Garden Grace prize.
Yeah.
So you picked it up because I just had to keep moving.
I went to pick it up. So I was like, you just keep going to Guardians. We will meet up there. So I picked it up. It was a cup, a souvenir cup that came with lime Dole Whip. It was good. It was very tart. I think if you really like a very tart lime flavor, you'd love it. For me, it's like I was a little bit too tart for what I liked. I think we gave it a 7 out of 10.
We gave it a 7. It was very tart. I will say that the souvenir cup Sloan loves and calls her pretty cup that she gets to drink stuff out of. So Sloan gets it had like flowers and it was pink, so it was very Sloan. So she loves her cup. Yep.
So then at 11:15, we scan in for Guardians virtual queue, and 11:40, we're into the pre-show. So not too bad. It was about 25 minutes through the standby line, which we've kind of heard that's somewhat typical. It can be as long as an hour or more. So we were happy that, that's as long as we waited. And this one we got Disco Inferno. So I was impressed that we kept getting different songs because I thought at some point we're for sure going to get a repeat, but we still hadn't gotten a repeat. This one was pretty good. I liked Disco Inferno.
It was good. This was keeping in line. This was time 4 of riding it. So we rode it 4 times by this point.
4 different songs.
4 different songs, which is pretty good. So then after Guardians, we left the park at about 12:05 to head on a bus to Saratoga Springs. So we got on the bus at 12:14. We got to the bus stop. There's no bus there. At first we thought there was a bus there, and I remember, of course, like run, and I'm like, I have to run, and then it ended up not being it, so it was fine.
It's not our bus.
No, So on the bus to Saratoga Springs, and then at 1:45, we got to Disney Springs. And I don't know if we were just having bad luck with mobile check-ins or what was going on with their system, but we had a reservation for the boathouse. And Court tried to do the mobile check-in, couldn't check into the boathouse. So I got in line for the boathouse to try to do our check-in while Court head over to Gideon's to get into that line to see about getting cookies.
Yeah,
So
and
it
the
was
boathouse line was huge, and
it
clearly it was
was
because
huge.
no one could mobile
No.
check in. So everyone was just waiting in this huge line just to check in. And so I left Steph there. I went to Gideon's because I thought, well, if they're doing a virtual queue, I want to get in it. They weren't. So at 12:57, I was in line at Gideon's, and Steph messaged me like 10 minutes later and said, hey, our table's ready at the boathouse. So I just abandoned the Gideon's line, walked back to the boathouse, and this was the brunch that they have on the weekends, and it has dueling pianos at the
Hmm.
brunch. And we were seated right in the room where the pianos were. I mean, we were, what, 2 tables away from the pianos, but it was not crazy loud. Like I was kind of
No.
actually worried when they sat us down that I thought, okay, well, we're not gonna be able to talk to each other at all because it's just gonna be so loud from the live music. It was great. Like clearly they had dampeners on, and then the music was then I think piped into some of the other rooms that they had in the boathouse. But it was so fun. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed
It
the
was
dueling
it was good.
pianos.
It was a good experience. And then the food was also good at the boathouse, which was nice. So
Yeah.
I would definitely go back again.
Yeah, we liked everything we got. I got mahi tacos. Steph got poke. The boathouse bread was really good. It had sort of
Yep.
like cinnamon butter on it.
And I've had like other versions of like this sort of sticky buns that some US restaurants will serve for like their bottomless buns because we only got one order. We could have ordered more, but I kind of and I was tempted to, except for the fact that I knew how much food we would be potentially consuming at other parts of the day, that I'm like, I don't want to fill up on this delicious bread, but I can think of members of my family that would. Um,
Hmm.
and then, of course, we got all the booze. I got of course, another espresso martini, and this one
Of
I gave an
course.
8 out of 10, and it was delicious. Court got the blueberry lemonade, which was huge.
Huge. Like they brought it to the table, and this thing was massive. It was in
It
this
was
like
tall,
giant
so
hurricane
tall.
glass. And I was like,
Yeah.
what did I order, Steph?
And I was like, I don't know, man, but it was good.
It was
And
boozy.
then
It was
it,
definitely boozy.
and then when we were done, we're like, well, I could do one more drink. Maybe we can take it to go. And so I ordered a strawberry gin fizz to go in a to go cup. That's the beauty of being down in the US sometimes is when you can get
Yeah.
these boozy to go cups
And then I hadn't
and just
quite
walk
finished
around
my
with it.
drink. And so same thing. She's like, "Oh, do you want a to-go cup for yours?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." And
Yep.
so put mine in a to-go cup because it was massive and I hadn't finished it yet. And Steph got
Yep.
her drink to go, and we took our drinks and we went and got in line at Gideon's. So this was now 2:15 that we got in line for Gideon's, and we waited 35 minutes. It was really not a terrible wait. And the thing I like about where you wait for Gideon's is that there's kind of a low wall almost the entire length of sort of where you're waiting. And so you just kind of sit. And at the time of day we went, it was shaded. So we were just literally
Yeah.
sitting in the shade, which was great for Steph's legs
Yeah.
at this
It's like,
point.
oh, this brick wall is so comfortable.
Yeah, and then we got our cookies, and we each got six. Steph only wanted four, so then I took her extra two. And I will
Yep.
say I'm almost out of my cookies, and I'm gonna be sad when they're done. But I cut them up into quarters, and I put them in the freezer, and then I'll take a
Yeah.
chunk out when I want to enjoy them. And I'm
I do the
getting I'm
same.
getting low. So
I'm going to
good.
make them last though, because they are giant cookies.
They are giant cookies.
So we went to World of Disney to get all the swag for our children,
Yep.
and did mobile checkout, so it was nice and easy. It's
Hmm.
a good way to do it. Stopped by the Star Wars store because this whole trip we had also been hunting for a magic band for my third son, Charles, who is currently at Disney World with his real parents. Uh, but I had to get him a Star Wars magic band for his whole experience.
We had to get him
So
the
that's
best one we could find.
well, and it's funny because then when we ended up getting him, we saw it a billion other places, but it was, yeah, got it there. He's used it now. He seems pretty happy, so that's good.
Excellent.
And then we went to Summer House to try out their cookies. and we walked right into the cookie bar. There's no wait. I wish I actually had taken a picture of the cookie bar, which I realized I didn't, but they had like a pretty good selection of stuff.
Yeah. And now
Um,
what's your comparison, Steph? Now that you've had both the cookies from Gideon's as well as Summer House, what's your comparison?
so I think I like Summer House better, but I think it's because I like the style of cookie from Summer House better. I am much more of a chewy center cookie with like a crispy edge. That's the kind of cookie that's my jam. Versus I would say Gideon's is like the big, doughy, lots of chocolate cookie,
Hmm.
which I do like lots of chocolate, but just for like what I like of texture-wise a cookie, I think I like Summer House better, which I know you feel the opposite too.
I do. I do. Well, and I even got the chocolate chip sea salt cookies
Yeah,
at Summer House to try and because Summer House also has a bunch of other types of cookies. Like I know you really liked the
the ginger
ginger,
snaps, those were good.
yeah. Yeah, which, doesn't necessarily have a comparison at Gideon's, but I
No,
think, it's I still preferred the Gideon's chocolate chip cookies to the Summer House, but I will say, they are still really good cookies. We didn't wait at all, and they were a little bit
yeah,
less expensive
they
than
were a
the
little bit
Gideon's
cheaper.
cookies.
Yeah,
So it's
like
a good alternative if you can't if the line is too long or you can't get into the virtual queue for Gideon's. So they it's a good alternative for sure.
they're not 3 pound cookies, but they don't need to be 3 pound
Mhm.
cookies. So,
Yeah. They're
uh,
still like the size of your face. So I mean they're still pretty good.
yeah.
And then right across from Summer House was Salt and Straw. I wanted to get they have really good vegan ice cream. So I went there and I got salted caramel chocolate brownie. It was okay. I was slightly disappointed. I probably should have taste tested the vegan options they had because they did have a mint chocolate chip one that I have had before that is really good. And I might have gotten that again if I had taste tested this. So anyways, just I think I was just so excited and I just kind of assumed, oh, they're all going to be amazing. And it was okay. It wasn't bad, but it was sort of like a 6 out of 10 for me. And then that was pretty much all we did. We ended up walking back to the bus stop to take a bus back. The bus that we got was actually a bus for Boardwalk Beach and Yacht Club, which always kind of annoys me. I'm like, you're staying at a deluxe resort, you don't even get your own bus, but whatever, it was fine. We didn't really have to wait, and we were on the bus and back to the beach club at 3:47. Um, we got back to the room. Steph passed out, like literally, like starfish passed out on the bed.
Yeah.
Like
Of course, like,
I,
go get into bed. I'm like,
I'm like,
no, I'm
just
just
like
gonna lie down for 10
at
minutes.
least take your shoes off, woman. Like she was like so done. So I
So
let
I
her.
did. I was like, I took my shoes off and then I set my alarm on my watch so I'd only sleep for 20 minutes in my little mind's brain because I wanted to go to the pool one more time. I'm like, I want to go to the pool. And then I just slept.
Yeah,
It was lovely.
FOMO Steph still believes she was going to the pool, but I knew she wouldn't.
I
So
did.
she
No.
slept. I packed. 5:15. Again, we walked back to Epcot. Again, you cannot beat this location. Like I love it for the
Yeah.
location close to Epcot. Soarin' instead had a standby wait of 20 minutes in the app, but so we were like, oh, okay, well, let's go ride Soarin'. And by the time we got there, it said now 35 minutes, and the line was like out to the door. And we were like,
Hmm.
no, 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 no. We have waited in a few lines already today that ended up being ridiculous. And I was like, there's no way this is only even a 35-minute wait. So we said, forget it. Um, Steph had actually purchased an individual lightning lane for Guardians because
Yep,
she
which
wanted
I
to
had
ride it
debated
again.
all day doing, and I'm like, nope,
I
I'm just gonna
know.
do it.
Yeah.
Just gonna do it.
So she had purchased that. So I said, you know what, you go ride that. I decided I didn't want to push my luck and potentially feel nauseous or something, which I probably actually realized at this point of the day that I would have been fine because we didn't do a ton of rides this day. But anyway, so Steph went to Guardians. I went to Test Track. So I got to Test Track at 6 o'clock and I did the single rider line. And I was off of the ride. So I went through the single rider line, got on the ride, did the entire ride. I was off the ride by 6:10. The posted wait
Hmm.
was 55 minutes. So do single rider line. Like if you do
Yeah.
not mind riding on your own and really like because the cars seat 3 and 3, I find like if there's two of you, like with Steph and I, we would have been sitting beside strangers anyways because it's three and
Yeah.
three. And anyways, it's faster even than the lightning lane. Like if you get a lightning lane for it, it's still faster to go through standby. So if you don't mind getting broken up from your party, so much better.
So much
So
faster.
so I did that. So then Steph went to Guardians, and you were really quick too because you
I
scanned
was.
in like pretty much same time, 5:59. You were in the
Yep.
pre-show within 5 minutes.
6:05.
Yeah.
And then I was on the ride by 6:16,
Hmm.
and I ticked off the last check mark for my Guardians checklist, and I ran. So I have officially ridden Guardians to all 6 songs. I
Yay.
ran was like, okay,
Not this trip, but
not this trip, but either
overall.
way, overall, I the only song I didn't get this trip because I wrote it 5 times and I got
You
five
got
different
5 different
songs.
songs. I know,
So
crazy.
so the only song I didn't get was Conga, which is totally fine.
And it felt
Um,
so fitting that like the
yeah,
last song you got on Guardians was I
I
Ran because
ran.
I'm like, you did run. You did
I
run
did
so much
run.
stuff.
I did. And what made this version of this ride that much more entertaining for me was the guy sitting directly ahead of me, air guitared for like the whole ride. Like I'm
Amazing.
just like this guy's just jamming away on the ride to his invisible air guitar on Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, this is great. Great.
Awesome.
So,
So
yep.
while I waited for Steph, I ended up booking us our Uber for the next morning. So we were flying out bright and early because heaven forbid we let Steph sleep in while we're on vacation. So
No.
I booked our Uber for a 4:30 a.m. pickup the next morning. Then Steph got off the ride at 6:35. We headed to the monorail. We were going to Magic Kingdom. I wanted to see the Happily Ever After fireworks one last time before we left. So we scanned into Magic Kingdom at 7:05. Steph did a little photo shoot in front of the castle because she had brought all of her medals with her. So she had the 3 from the races plus the challenge, the Stitch challenge medal that she got.
So I did. I got a shot of me in front of Magic Kingdom, which in front of the castle, which it like it was fine, but the person who did it wasn't nearly as into it as some of the other PhotoPass
No, and
people.
it was only kind of disappointing because it seemed like she was very into it for
Yeah.
there was a little girl who I don't know if it was her birthday or whatever, but she was there with her family and then they did a whole bunch of pictures just for her. And so it kind of seemed like maybe, but Steph just sort of got the cursory 3 to 4. So it was
And
like,
that was
okay,
it.
so
Well, and
not
even
everyone gets that
no,
treatment,
and
I guess.
but even that there was a couple of women in line in front of us. And we should mention too, while we were at Disney this weekend, it was also Dapper Days. So that's
Yeah.
that's like a whole other thing. People dress very nice. Do you
They
know
dress
I
they
actually
dress like 1940s, 1950s, like kind of like classic Walt Disney era is what they're supposed to dress as, and they dress all fancy. And you see some of these people in like
yeah,
3-piece suits or
like
with like
very fancy considering how
very
hot it
fancy.
is as
Oh
well.
my God.
Like it
Yeah.
was very,
I don't
very
know.
hot.
I don't know how
I
they
did
did
look
it.
up the origins of Dapper Days, and it has something to do with Winnipeg. There's like a whole thing about it on Wikipedia if you actually read it, but I can't remember the specifics of it right now. But anyways, the women in front of us were dressed up for Dapper Days, and she spent much longer taking pictures of them than like the 3 pictures I got. But either way, they were good enough.
You got
Served
your
its
pictures.
purpose. Got my pictures. I was happy. I was also very tired, so I was like, whatever, this is fine. And then yeah, we did Seven Dwarf Mine Train for our individual lightning lane at this point. And it was like a nice way to like kind of finish off our rides at Magic Kingdom.
Yeah,
That
it's a
happened.
great ride. I really
Yeah.
like it. It was a posted 70-minute wait. We waited 10 minutes. Even though like the lightning lane was basically out as far as where you tapped in initially to get into it, but they were moving the lightning lane through pretty quickly. So it made me think the standby line was maybe even longer than 70 minutes. But yeah, we got
Hmm.
in and out. And then I wanted to watch the fireworks at the end of Main Street just so that we could leave as soon as the fireworks were over so we wouldn't be waiting with a bunch of people for the buses. On the way there, I mobile ordered a Nutella waffle from Sleepy Hollow. Steph got some spring rolls from the spring roll cart because we hadn't really had dinner, but we weren't super hungry because we had such a big lunch at the boathouse. So we
Lunch.
thought, yeah, we'll just we'll just get some snacks. And then at 8:02, we got a spot at the right where the circle is for in the main street at the very start of the park. We just sort of sat there against the railing. It was a great spot. I was really happy with where we were
Yeah.
sitting. Not a
You
lot
could
of
see
people around
everything.
us. Yeah, you could see down Main Street, you could see the castle. Now, we've also seen it up closer this trip because we did the dessert party. So you also kind of know what the projections are. But even I thought from that vantage point, you still could tell a lot of what the
You
projections
could,
were.
and in addition to seeing the projections on the castle, you could see the actual projections on Main Street, which you couldn't see when you were past Main Street, right? So like that was seeing it from a different perspective. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we watched it there, and then just before Tink did her flight, we knew it was time to book it out to try to like get onto a bus.
We're out.
So yeah, we were like we waited less than 5 minutes for a bus, and we were back to the hotel by 9:40.
Yep. And then to bed because we had another early morning wake up, Steph, because Steph doesn't get to sleep in apparently on our
No,
Disney trips.
no. And if you're wondering where my step count was for this day, considering it was like not as crazy of a day, yes, I did run further. I managed to somehow clock in 47,000 steps to make an all-time high of I have walked. So that was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I think even I hit 20,000 steps this day without doing a race and really we didn't really go very hard on the
No,
parks. I mean, we did Disney Springs, we did some of Epcot, but just like
but
a
we
little
also
bit here and there. And,
and
so it just,
we stood around waiting for a long time, right? So
yeah, but
it
you
wasn't like
just kind
we
of see like how many steps you get, even just with like not a super busy day at the
hmm
parks. But yeah, so went to bed and then yeah, Monday was our flight home day. So we were up at 4. I had booked our Uber for 4:30. Both Steph and I have Nexus, so we're able to go through the TSA pre-check lines. The lines were kind of longish, like 15 to 20 minutes for the regular lines. The fun thing about this though is so we took the Uber to the airport and I don't know why, like it was a very perfectly fine Uber ride. She was driving very nicely and I
she
don't
was
know,
very lovely.
she was very lovely. I don't know what it was, early morning, whatever, but I just was feeling so nauseous. And so I had taken a bit of Gravol and but I knew I was like, no, I do not feel well. So I had made myself a tea in the room, which I had pretty much finished on the Uber ride. And so we get out of the Uber, we get our stuff, and Steph like heads into the airport, and I just like pulled over and just like threw up into my
You
cup
into her teacup.
multiple
And
times. And
the best part is I like go into the airport and I'm like,
Court,
Court, what? What? And then I go out and I find her standing behind a pillar puking into her cup. And I'm
yeah,
like, what just happened? Because I did not see
yeah.
this coming at all.
I was like, this is just living in my body, Steph, is that
Yeah.
things
I
just
was-
make me nauseous, and then apparently I throw up, and I was fine, so I threw up, and then I was like, okay, I feel better now.
yeah.
Disposed of my cup. I got my toothbrush out of my checked bag so that I could brush my teeth. Because they had forced us to check our bags on the way there, we said, you know what, we'll just check our bags preemptively and then we don't have to worry about it. And I have priority with Air Canada. So I'm like, this way at least our bags get checked with priority. So there was nobody else there. So we checked our
We just did
bags.
it that way.
Yeah, we went and got some Starbucks. It was not a terrible wait at Starbucks, but except for Steph's food, for some reason,
I know.
she got hers heated up because she's fancy. I didn't get mine heated up, so mine came right away.
I
That
just
was your
I
mistake.
wasn't gonna get any food, and then Court got a croissant, and they're like, "Oh, do you want a toast?" I'm like, "A toasted croissant would be
Ooh.
delicious now." And I figured toasted croissant won't take that long because what do? Stick in their little toasters, and then that's it. No, because they had huge inefficiencies of how this Starbucks was ran. So yes, it was a long lineup for my toasted croissant, and then by the time I got it, we walked over to the gate, and the gate was pretty much boarding.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we got to the gate at 5:45 and so it was but I never felt rushed. Like we always kind of felt
no,
like we had time and yeah, no other issues and then, got home, got through customs really quick, back to our car and we were home by 11 a.m., back to regular life and snuggles with our kiddos and
yep,
that was the end of our first first adventure of this podcast series done and in the books.
Check.
Check. I will say something that I didn't finish the story of, which I'll just add here. So I had mentioned that we were going to try and use the Standby Skipper app, and I was having
Oh,
issues with
yes.
it. And so I emailed them and said, hey, so the way you can either purchase one day for $25 or you can purchase for a week for $45. So I was like, well, I'll just purchase for the week, and we were going to maybe use it 3 of the days. So I emailed them and said, hey, I haven't been able to use this. It just doesn't seem to be working. Could I get a refund because I haven't been able to use it? And I didn't really have high hopes because I figured they'd be like, no, you've purchased it. You could have been using it, whatever. They were lovely. They emailed me back right away and immediately said, yes, no problem. We will refund you. I had a refund like already to my credit card basically when they sent that email. So they were very efficient with that. And they said, by the way, here's what sort of they think happened. So I was too quick at checking to see if they had booked me a Genie Plus. And so I would go in and go, Steph, it hasn't been booked yet. And I was too impatient and I was too nervous, I think, too, that I hadn't set it up correctly. And so then I would just go in and book it. So they're like, so at this time, we went in to book it for you based on your selection and it had already been booked. So then we couldn't book anything. And I went, okay, so if you're not like a hyper planner like myself, it probably would work great because you'd just like set it and not worry about it. Whereas I was like in the app checking every time to see if it had done it, which in hindsight probably meant I didn't need to pay for it
No.
to do it because I was going to be in the app anyways. But anyways, so I don't want to say anything bad about them because I actually had a wonderful experience with their customer service. And I have heard really good results for other people who have a more relaxed vacation and, don't want to always be setting timers and making sure they're in their app booking. But anyways, just wanted to clarify that good experience overall still with Standby Skipper, even though we didn't end up using it.
See, and this is where I don't even think if I were to plan a trip independently of you, I would use it because you've trained me to be like you. And I would just be checking all the time anyways to be like, oh, could I book now? Yep.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. So anyways, I think it would be a tool that would be good for certain types of travelers. Steph and I, we are just not those types
Nope.
of travelers. Yeah.
Definitely not.
So anyways, Steph, I mean, that's the end of our springtime surprise. I hope everyone enjoyed the two-parter. Steph did it.
I did
I
it.
ran my 10K, so success overall. We did our
Not
4 parks in one
stopping.
day, not stopping. I know. So anyways, I think we were pretty proud of how the weekend turned out. And Steph did mention that I think it took you till about Thursday before you felt like the brain fog
Yep.
fully
Yeah,
lifted.
I did feel it did take until about Thursday, and then the following weekend I slept a whole bunch
Yeah.
just to like catch up on life because I basically came back that week and went right into work. Something I should follow up with, I did make it my goal. I did reach my goal of finishing my 10-mile race under 90 minutes. My clocked Disney time for my proof of time going into the marathon weekend was 1 hour, 29 minutes and 58 seconds with a bunch of stops along the way. I have now read since then online. It may not be enough to get me into Corral A, but you never know. But for sure, I should be at least in Corral B. So that's kind of nice.
So stay
So
tuned.
yeah,
We'll find out
stay tuned.
come
Come
January when the
January.
marathon. Anyways, but otherwise, I think that'll about wrap it up for us for this episode. So until next time.
Weedle out.